Right. At this moment in time, I was so tired. I was super exhausted, such that I couldn't even comment in most parts of the video. All I wanted was just to get to my destination and get to rest. So as you can see, the road is super clear, it's nicely done, and the traffic is not that much. One can nicely cruise and enjoy the trip without any hassles of the traffic congestion. If you followed closely my trip, alright, especially starting off from Beit port of entry itself, one can actually see that the main kind of vehicles in this road are the trucks and the buses. I think they contribute about 90% or somewhere thereabout to the total traffic which flows in this highway. So this highway actually plays a very pivotal role as far as road networking is concerned in the SADC region. It connects entirely the whole of the SADC region and some of the northern African countries or those around the Zimbabwean area, such as Malawi, Mozambique, DRC, Zambia. So what kind of goods are these trucks actually transporting? Some of you might be having those kind of questions in your heads. I want you to pay attention to the flat deck trucks, these ones here which are just passing, right? So these trucks are actually carrying copper. Copper, the precious metal which is actually used mostly in the electrical cables and other metals of the like. So most of them would actually be coming from DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is actually the highest copper producing country in Africa. And some of them, they also come from Zambia. You know, these two countries, they contribute largely to the copper production in the entire continent of Africa. However, the most painful thing, more so from an African perspective, is that this precious metal, people, is being transported all the way out of the continent. As you can see, these trucks are taking this precious metal to the port of entry or port of exits. I'm not sure which one is correct there, right? Which is actually in South Africa, that is Durban. So from Durban, this copper is gonna be shipped to the most copper consuming countries, which are China, Switzerland, and Canada. You know, so that's the main painful part there. This copper, as you can see, as one can actually see that, as Africa, we are pretty much blessed. We have all the minerals, all the resources and stuff. But one thing we lack is probably the processing, or can I say it's a technique? We lack processing technique, or we lack the processing equipment, or what? I'm not quite sure there. You can be the judge. But people, what I can tell you is that we are actually oozing out a lot of minerals to these European and American countries there. And most painfully is that we're shipping this as actually semi-raw materials, or actually pretty much raw materials, you know. So it's actually a painful thing there. As you can see, most of these trucks, that's what they are transporting. This one there with the flat deck, you know, it actually looks like a small load, but it's actually very heavy, as you can see there. And these trucks, they actually don't move around like in ones or twos and stuff like that. They usually move in like a group of 5 trucks or even 10 or stuff like that. I think for security and safety as well for the drivers, because you know, they're actually transporting a very precious mineral there, you know. Actually, there's a funny story which happened. It's funny but not funny, you know. So there's a driver who was transporting copper from Zambia, right, on the 30th of March. It's actually a recent story. You can check out the story out there. It is there on the public domain. So this driver was transporting 36 tons of copper on a truck from Lusaka to Port of Beira in Mozambique, obviously for the shipment to China or some other European countries down there, you know. And the monetary value put on it is 300,000 US dollars, which is actually about 5.5 million rands. That's 5,500,000 in rands. Someone disappeared with a whole truck wore 36 tons of copper on a truck. Yeah. So, as I said, they actually wanted to put it on the ship to China. As Africans, we have a lot of mineral resources, but we actually just bleeding them out just like that, So this guy, when actually reached somewhere in Zimbabwe called Macheke area, somewhere around Marunta, he actually disappeared with the truck. So what he did is he actually took the truck and parked it for a bit. So these guys were actually seeing the truck on tracker back in the office. So they thought that everything's actually fine and perfect. Probably the driver just taking a recess or so, Yet what this guy actually did, he actually parked there, offloaded the truck, took out the copper, and loaded the truck with some what do you call them? The pallets, those wooden pallets. He loaded the truck with the wooden pallets and then he disappeared. To date, that truck is, the copper up to now has not been recovered, but the truck has been recovered, So these are some of the risks which these guys actually, or the companies rather, face by actually having maybe a single truck traveling all the way from DRC, Kinshasa to Durban, South Africa. That's why they actually move in a pack, maybe 5 or 10 or something like that, also to provide security and safety and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, as I was saying that, Africa is very, very rich, but we actually probably lack a skill, or we lack machinery, or what do we lack? I'm not really sure, but somewhere, somehow there's something lacking, because we actually taking all the minerals in their raw state or semi-raw and export it to China. And in turn, China will actually use these materials or these minerals to develop their economy, build their hospitals, build their schools, universities, and strengthen their education system. And what do we do in return? In return, here in Africa, we go to the European countries in seek of medical attention, better expertise in the locomotive industry. We go out there to buy the vehicles. We send our children out there for better education, forgetting that the resources which they're actually using to better their education system, they actually came from Africa. That's actually our copper. That's actually our this other mineral which is actually making waves as well, especially in Zimbabwe. The whitish one. What is it? Lithium. Lithium. I'm talking about lithium. They're taking all this out, even granite. There's a lot of granite which comes out of Zimbabwe in a place called Utoko. If I tell you that there's this other huge library which has been built in Denmark by the granite which came all the way from Zimbabwe. And in turn, we're going to send our kids or children to Ireland to go and study in that very same library which was built by our natural resources, by our stones which came from Africa. So, anyway, let me leave that talk for another day. Let's focus on the riding part of things before I get diverted. Okay, so yeah, the road is nice and smooth and we are cruising nicely. Let's actually have to listen to some tunes as we spin here on our way from Beit to Harare.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything.
Hitting out the trees and all the panoramic view of the land here in this road section is just spectacular to the eye. The sun setting, the sun downer, the views are just amazing. And I like the color blending there, which is actually being projected from the sun. The rays are hitting against the earth and the deflection of the color there is just majestic with the long shadow of the tree spanning across the road. That's
Hey man, how the hell you doing? I've been
another long one, I think.
Yeah, so as I was saying, you're gonna see a lot of trucks and trucks and trucks along this route. So it was actually incumbent upon the governments in these areas to really make sure that the road network thereof is actually in a proper functional condition to facilitate the ease movement of goods and the services across the countries. As you can see there, it's only trucks, and these trucks are loaded.
Sure. This is hectic. That's yeah.
Most of these, as I say, they're actually coming from Zambia and the DRC, but some also from Zimbabwe, just transporting different kind of goods as well, going south there. As you know, there is a seaport there in Durban. So most of these goods are actually just for shipment, being taken out for some other buying countries out there. I just mentioned copper is just one of those, but there are lots more of these. As I even mentioned, granite and stuff like that. But according to my own observations, as I'm always on this kind of travels, what I see the most is copper, and this is everyday thing. It's not like these copper trucks they just move like on a Sunday or on a Monday or Tuesday. It's an everyday thing.
Hectic. I'm so drained. Super drained. I am. Wanted to see if I can't cut through, but seems I can't. No way out.
If one has time, if you just go onto this highway and check around, you're gonna be seeing these trucks moving along this route each and every day. Or if you just go along the Pretoria side on the N1, just checking there, you're gonna be seeing them. Their numbers 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 and stuff like that. So this road is very, very, very busy. It's very, very busy, and this rehabilitation here is very much needed. It's very, very much needed. And kudos to whoever is running this project and actually decided to have it done. One thing you'd actually have noticed that there's also quite a lot of buses on this route. I spoke about trucks, so now let me also speak about the buses as the main actors on this route. These are heavy vehicles. So the buses, obviously, these are just like transporting people, transporting human beings, from different cities, mainly the Harare, Lusaka, and Lilongwe. That's from Malawi.
Yo, this is the longest detail ever. Still going through it.
So there are various reasons why we actually seeing this quite huge amount of bus traffic flowing on this road network, and I'm going to speak about the main two. So one, there's quite a lot of trade activities that happen between Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Zambia, as well as Malawi. So mostly these buses will be actually transporting goods for trade purposes.
Yeah, this was the longest thing ever. Not yet done. Nah, done.
From South Africa, it will be more of like your groceries, your materials, furniture, and other general lifestyle things, And from Zambia, not Mozambique, from Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, it's more like the goods for sale, It all depends what is what, but yeah, mostly those are the things. So these people, they go all the way into South Africa and sell their items there. Some of them, it can be art, like nicely made art, nicely hand woven stuff, and then they sell in SA, to some tourists or even to the locals, and in turn they buy goods like, for example, your normal household materials like your TVs or clothing itself, and then they take those materials back home as well. So these are the kind of the materials actually these buses will be transporting. And secondly, the labor force. It goes without saying that, South Africa is actually the backbone of the Southern Africa region right now, if not actually the entire Africa. That goes without saying, and it doesn't need a debate, South Africa anchors the whole continent. If a mistake or something silly happens to this country or South Africa, I'm telling you, the whole continent is going to be quaking. There's going to be tremor. There's going to be economic turmoil. There's going to be really, really, really a lot of trouble. Because if you can just look at it right now, how many nationalities does South Africa host? How many nations are being supported by the goods and services which are coming from South Africa? Quite a lot of them, So that's why you see a lot of like road tributaries actually flocking down to South Africa. That's why you see this Beit Bridge Road. It's quite busy, like as it is right now. Even the Kazungula part is also quite busy all the way going to the south, because South Africa is actually the backbone of the African continent.
So this is the kind of the road which they are stretching out. It's terrible. It is this bad.
Quickly going back to the road condition. This stretch which you see in here and the condition thereof, this is exactly how the entire road from Harare to Beit Bridge was before it was actually reconstructed. This is exactly how it was. As slim as it is, as narrow as it is, you can actually see that I struggled even to share the road side by side with a truck right there. Now imagine if two trucks of the same size, same width and stuff like that. It was always a trouble. If one doesn't actually swallow their pride and at least take one whole side to the shoulder of the road, they end up side swiping and they end up having an accident. This is how actual accidents used to happen before this road was actually widened up and before it was actually surfaced. It was pretty much very, very narrow. They could literally side swap each other, especially trucks and the buses, or bus against the bus, or truck against the bus. Even a small vehicle, sometimes you actually have to swerve all the way to the left, because these trucks, right? Sometimes they feel like, okay, I'm the big brother of the road, and they don't even like to share the road with anyone else. So if you're having a smaller car, you have no other option but to swerve all the way to the left. And by doing so, as you can see, the edges there are very, very sharp. You end up losing your tire to the sharp tarmac edges there. At one point I lost 2 tires at the same point, because really those trucks, they don't give chance, they don't give away, so you have to always swerve for your dear life, not knowing that swerving for your dear life might be swerving for your fate. This is how terrible it was. It was always this terrible. Side swiping were the most kind of accidents happening here, because both of them will be stubborn. The truck driver and the truck driver, they will be stubborn, say, okay, I'm not going anywhere, and this one's also say, hey, I'm not going anywhere. They end up side swiping, and then you have done nothing. All of you are in trouble, and you end up losing your materials or even your life or your job. Same with buses. A lot of people perished in this road. May their souls rest in peace. And it was really terrible. This is exactly how it was, this trip, all the way from Harare to Beit Bridge. This is exactly how it was. So yeah, when this resurfacing started, it was really much appreciated, especially by those who know how this road strip has been or how it was, and they know the agony and the pain of using it. Yeah. So yeah, it's now getting dark. It's getting dark and dark and dark. Let's see how it's gonna end up. it actually got even darker and darker.